by Mr. Nizar Farsak. He's a lecturer in international affairs at the George Washington University, and of course keeps a very close eye on all of these. Welcome to our show once again.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So, this bill that I was referring to, were you surprised at all the way that the Democrats voted, or were you expecting this?
It was expected, but not in those numbers. It's a testament to how the momentum is really shifting against Israel and against American supports for Israel.
So what is this going on? I mean, public opinion through polls, which is sharply moving against Israel. Is this now a major discussion point within political circles, and do you think that this trend that we are seeing is a temporary thing, or does it reflect something very major happening within American political opinion?
It is definitely major, and we need to give some background, because the situation on the Democratic side of things is different than the situation on the Republican side of things. Support for Israel has been bipartisan for decades, for many reasons, some of which were cultural and some of which were just, the lobby, the pro-Israel lobby and what have you. What happened is, with the Second Intifada in the 2000s, many Americans who were visiting Palestine, Palestinian Americans, became much more active after, and Arab and Muslim Americans, of course, after 9/11 became much more active in politics. So there was growth in American public knowledge about Palestine and what's happening in Palestine and the violations in ways that wasn't there in the 90s and the 80s. So that is what we're seeing on the Democratic Party are the fruits of decades of pro-Palestine engagement in the U.S., where the alignment has started to shift, and you started having, while you had one pro-Israel lobby, which was AIPAC, whose position was the American government is supposed to support Israel with whatever decision they make. You had J Street, which is a different Jewish American lobby that argues for a Palestinian state, because the Palestinian state is good for Israel. So that split and that allowed for a debate over Israel. Up until J Street was created, you simply could not have a debate over American policy over Israel. It was considered a fact. So that opening came from the Democratic Party. And of course, the genocide in Gaza moved things to a totally different level, as many more people who had nothing to do with Palestine and Israel got access to information thanks to social media. And when they got access to information and realized what was happening compared to what was being reported and by the regular media, mainstream media, and by the politicians, the sense, and this is where the Republican or the rest of America comes in, realize the extent to which that they've been lied to, the extent to which the U.S. is implicated in Israel's violations. It was one thing when it was thought that, well, Israel is doing this thing out there, we're not really implicated. Now Americans, so many more Americans, even Americans that were not political, started realizing that no, it is their tax dollars that is enabling this genocide, enabling all of this. And with that, they started understanding the backlash on America, why so many people across the globe are so critical of the United States, right? So this epiphany, this large, let's say, awakening of the American public in general is at the heart of this shift. On the Democratic Party, or the sides of the Democrats, there was active, advocacy that was working, that culminated, of course, or accelerated with the Gaza genocide. On the Republican side, it's a section of the Republican and conservative voters that simply were ignorant at what the implications of the American relationship with Israel were to them personally, to their, to the, the billions that were spent. So, for example, and I'll stop at that example. In one of the hurricanes, I can't remember which one, it was Sandy, not Sandy, some other one. Every family, American family that was impacted, got, and whose house was destroyed, basically, got $750. While you calculate the number, the billions of dollars that were sent to Israel in 2024 alone, it turns out that every Israeli citizen got $7,500. So that discrepancy, these
That's
facts
huge.
started showing up.
Yeah. And I think the way that we look at it from the outside, it seemed to us that the things that really got this whole shift in public opinion started was, of course, once the Israeli genocide of Palestinians started, it was picked up by the social media. So through social media, the young people began to actually understand in the US what was happening. And the people or the organizations or the institutions that were last to wake up, I think that first the Democratic Party started feeling the impact, but the Republican Party and even the mainstream media is still not waking up. So you don't find this new shift being reflected in your main newspapers or television. They're still behaving the way that they used to, but the ground between underneath them, the public opinion has shifted. It's very strange, for us to also see the huge gap between what mainstream media is reporting and what the average overwhelming majority of Americans are feeling. And I'm sure the mainstream media must also be realizing that this change is happening, but somehow they dare not report that.
Definitely, yeah. So the evidence to the power of the lobby of big business. What the interesting, I think, part of this is that because regular Americans and the younger generation was seeing information in the social media, especially that it was actual Palestinians who were undergoing the genocide, like it was just live witness of the genocide that just simply cannot be contested, compared to what was being reported, not only made people realize the extent to which they were lied to on Palestine, but it also made them realize what else is the media lying to us on, right? So the average American realized the extent to which the system itself is rigged, the system itself is lying, and how it is the same group of people who are benefiting from the pharmaceuticals lobby, the same ones who are benefiting from the military-industrial complex, the ones who are benefiting from Wall Street, and the Israel lobby are all on one side, and literally the rest of the public is somewhere else. So the connection, the realization that this is part of something bigger, that is not only about Palestine. Palestine was exposing how the system works because it was so obvious, because the lying was so obvious.
Yeah. And
definitely, and Rahm Emanuel is a very good example, because Rahm Emanuel is a very staunch Zionist. This is a person who was, of course, a chief of staff for Obama. He was mayor of Chicago. He volunteered with the Israeli military. So you don't get more Zionist than that. And he has had to say publicly, right, that he told the Israeli journalist, Israel doesn't have a problem with the Democratic Party. Israel has a problem with America. That all of America is now critical of Israel. So for him, who's vying for a political position, to act that publicly means that he thinks if he doesn't say that, he's not going to win the elections. Right? That's where you see the power of the message. Is that now there is no debate that what Israel is doing is simply if not a genocide, just not acceptable and indefensible. And you just when that such a position was completely untenable, it was considered political suicide.
Now, on the Republican side, of course,
it is an indication of how this younger generation of American politicians are, some of which are aligned from a values perspective, but in the case of Vance, he has a very good reading of the conservative and specifically the MAGA voter, because he comes from that, let's say, populist faction of the conservative party. And for him to say that, again, it shows that he knows that he cannot say otherwise, that the base that supports him, this is they are thinking, and if he said otherwise, he will lose in the elections. Again, I don't want to overemphasize the point, but it is quite stark how now this political conclusion that you have to be extremely careful about how you talk about Israel and make sure that you're not looking like you're supporting Israel, and this America first. The easiest way to show that you're America first is to show that you're against Israel.
That's amazing.
That is a 180 degrees shift for sure.
Translate into something major for not just the political parties, but for American policy as a whole.
Well, for sure. One thing I want to say is that we got here thanks to a lot of work also. Like, it wasn't only the genocide, like as I mentioned before, since the early 2000s, all of this advocacy work, the fact, and I was actually part of it, like back in 2000s, there was a movement called the International Solidarity Movement. Waid Arraf and Adam Shapiro, a Palestinian Jewish couple, started bringing regular Americans to Palestine to see for themselves what the occupation is like, right? So year after year, you had so many people who were just average Americans who saw for themselves what was happening and saw the stark difference between what was actually happening on the ground and what U.S. policy and what the media and even Hollywood was showing, that they became motivated because as Americans, they realized how much they've been lied to and how rigged the system is. And they became active. So the activity that we started seeing in 2023 is the fruits of all of these thousands and thousands of Americans that got motivated, that got connected things to, the civil rights movement. You have, for example, the Black Lives Matter. Two prominent leaders in the Black Lives Matter movement were actually Palestinian Americans, one in Florida and the other one in Ferguson. Both of them were Palestinian Americans, dark Palestinian Americans, but they were instrumental. So the intersectionality with other American issues was organic, and that's why this momentum is so strong. Now, where things are heading, they are definitely heading towards a weakening of not only the pro-Israel lobby, but all the big lobbies. Like, there is a genuine, there is a growing movement against big money in politics. So we're starting to see that shift. We're starting to see many more regular Americans going into politics precisely because they want to change things. Like also we see Mamdani in New York and other places. So we're going to see those small changes that slowly are going to add up into a big shift. And now the Israeli government itself is discussing how to wean itself off of American aid and try to get that aid in indirect ways. So we'll see more of that shift in the future. Because also the final thing I want to say is we're seeing how the pro-Israel lobby is having to be much more heavy-handed with actual censorship and witch hunt against academics, against politicians. Before that, they used to be subtle. Now they're not subtle at all, and that is again making people who are not paying attention to pay attention and realize, wait, there's something wrong. There's a lot of interference here from a foreign agent.
Very